And every company has a bunch of needs. And, you know, you can kind of think of those as like a void in space. And you could go and fill that void up with your time, but you have to do the calculation of like, is it valuable for me to do it? Is it valuable for the company to do that? Am I doing the right thing with my energy by pursuing something that needs to get done? And, you know, in a larger company, well, I mean, even in a smaller company, I would say, or a mid-size, you're going to get stretched in many directions and probably too many. And when you first come in, it's almost like a candy land. It's just kind of like, I'm just going to go and do a little bit of everything. And then you realize like, wow, I'm not really doing anything. I'm just doing a lot of stuff. And I think getting prioritized and deciding where's the value that I can bring as a professional and where the business would really value me, finding that match is one of the most important things you can do. And sometimes it's not that clear. Like your boss might even ask you to do stuff that's outside of your ability. And then you have to decide like, is this like a risk that I should take where I can go do that and use it as a learning experience? Or is it so far above my, you know, abilities right now that I will actually look like I'm failing? So I think that that calculus is hard to do. It requires a lot of self-reflection and being real and, you know, having open and honest discussions with your team around you. But I do think that it's about trying to find that place where they will value you and you will value it equally. Because if you find that, you know, it can be really beneficial on both sides and you can have a lot of fun in your growth. So that would be my 2 cents, is start off with that as the thing to do. Very basic, I suppose, but it's just common sense.
But then where do you begin? Is it by having those conversations? You know, it is right. It's how others view it. Where is the value? What is valuable? What's valuable to you as well as to the company? So I bet these are conversations early on, or finding a mentor like you, or where do they begin?
Well, so a lot of people that I hire nowadays, you know, I hire kind of with no job. You
Yeah.
know, like I'll have a role in mind and I'll say to them, like, I really think that you would help us in some way. I really think that we would be able to find the role for you. But I'm not trying to put you into like a round peg in a round hole. I don't have a thing. And it's like, I think that hiring like that actually is undercuts the value of the person that you're bringing in. So I kind of think like I'm bringing in a person here and I'm going to try to maximize the value that they bring to the company. Like what are the things that they're particularly good at and what things do we need and can we find that match in a good way? So a lot of times it starts with, I mean, there's a selection bias here that the people that I hire are willing to be in that deal. You know, they're okay with that process, which is risky in a way of like, okay, I'm going to go and leave a, you know, perfectly flying plane to join this other thing where, yeah, maybe Pat has an idea, but there's no perfect job lined up exactly. But he definitely has a need in mind. So then, you know, they come in and I'll say to them like, okay, help me define your job. You know, like go and talk to these folks. You're smart. Like go figure out like where you're going to be the most valuable. And then a lot of times they'll come back with a bunch of candidate ideas and we'll just talk about them. You know, I could do this, I could do this. What about that? And, you know, I'll give a little bit of my opinion of like, well, that seems like a really interesting thing. That sounds like would really be valuable to us. And then we kind of, I guess there's kind of like an inherent negotiation that happens where we both kind of click somewhere and say like, that's the thing. And I always think of it like as that's the starting thing. That's not even the job really. That's just a project, right? That's just a version zero of something. And like it's enough to get their teeth into something and to start iterating. And then there's like another frontier that develops. There's a whole nother set of projects that kind of get, and then you go through that process together again and again and again. And at some point they're free ranging, you know, it's like like, I don't want to have to be shaping people's careers like every second. It does. So you hire smart people who feel like, who are adaptable, who are willing to take those risks. They help identify which voids are the most important for the company. You kind of like figure out their starting thing, get to first base, and then eventually they kind of are able to do that on their own. And you don't have to be managing it. Maybe you do troubleshooting occasionally, like, wow, I'm really running into some issues here. And you can kind of coach them back to a place where they're, feeling like they can take action. But I don't think you want to be micromanaging all of those little moves.